Well, back home, former IEBC Commissioner Roselyne Akombe had recommended a complete overhaul of the system of registration of voters, calling for involvement of all stakeholders and especially the civil society and political parties. In a 93-page document that Akombe titled, quote-unquote, End of Assignment Report and dated 30th of October 2017, which covers the period of her tenure as an IEBC Commissioner, Akombe addresses a wide range of issues, but here are some key areas of focus, and we start with the contentious voter registration, where she recommends direct link between registration of persons once they have attained the age 18 and the registration as voters, transparent process for removing deceased voters from the register of voters. We move on now to the next, where also she recommends Parliament to initiate inquiry into role played by Saffron Morpho and other consultants. Move away from inventing new technology every election year and use systems that have worked elsewhere. Build ICT capacity in cybersecurity and biometric registration. She goes on to say that also legal reforms must involve all stakeholders and take place at least 1 year before the general election. Selection of commissioners to include people with electoral expertise. Commission must conduct itself with utmost impartiality. Also, you can follow it on today's Star. Akombe exposes the road inside the IEBC. This has been a bone of contention, public inquiry into conduct of elections and role of Morpho and its companies. Also, we have a 93-page end-of-duty report reveals Commission Secretariat tag of war. This is the basis of our discussion, along a raft of other issues as well. And we know also the political scene, as far as 2022 is concerned, people are shaping up, or maybe they want also to make sure the psyche of Kenyans also is geared towards 2022. So we have our panelists with us here. We have Dr. Shem Ochuodho, who is a global leader of Kenya Diaspora Alliance. Also, we do have with us Beatrice Adagala. She is a women rep, Vihiga County. We do have with us Peter Kagwanja, who is executive director of African Policy Institute. Also, we have Kabando is a former legislator of Nyandarua. Nyeri. Oh, yes. You see, Mokuroine. Thank you very much. Good morning, gentlemen and lady.
Morning.
Morning to you. Right, let's just cut to the chase, and we begin with what is happening with IEBC, first of all, with this particular report that was tabled last year, 2017, when Akombe now resigned, and it shocked many Kenyans. And in light of what we are seeing today, and we're facing today as a country, and with the IEBC crumbling right now, what would be, or what will be maybe your assessment of the entire IEBC? Because right now, even if we look at, especially the editorial cartoons that we do have, if I may pick one that we have also today from Stano inside the People Daily. This is how it looks. So people are saying, why can't you come out of this crumbling house? But we can see the chairman, Chebukati, has stoutly denied that he is ready to quit, as is being asked by many people to quit so far. And we know some of commissioners who are left there. So what does it portend for this country in light of what is happening? Let's start with you, Peter Kagwanja.
I think the issue of IEBC is sensationalized. We are being sensational about it.
Are we?
Because electoral institutions everywhere are a focus of political, competition. You want to control it, hopefully, in order to control the results. Remember, this is the referee, and people always ask, who's on whose side is the referee, and until they establish that neutrality, you can never talk about an IEBC that is working. Remember, this is something that we have been having since 1997. IPPG was about the referee. It was changed. Then we came to 2002. Again, there were issues here, but most starkly in 2007, when actually the whole crisis revolved around IEBC and the courts. So the larger debate within which we should pitch this discussion is institutional reforms in order to deepen democracy. And another issue to address in relation to that is how do we deal with the mistrust amongst our political elite, our political class. And it is that mistrust that has made IEBC one of the most expensive institutions. In fact, that is what we should be focusing on. It is a drain to the economy. It is the most expensive thing this republic has had since independence. If you look at the budget of IEBC from April 2017 to December 2017, it is more expensive than anything else this country has seen. Because of that mistrust, a voter in Kenya is costing the taxpayer $25 in order to be able to cast the vote. That has nothing to do with whether IEBC collapses or does not collapse. So we need to get deeper into this debate than just focusing on IEBC, because IEBC is simply a tip of an iceberg, and the iceberg is that there is total mistrust. Remember, in the US, there is no IEBC independent this. The state office of the federal office of this, it is part of the bureaucracy. Just like where you have the police overseeing this, the way you have this institution in the hospitals overseeing this, it's part of the mainstream body. So it does not cost the state anything extra because the officers are the same officers. In our case, it's a pity, and I think Akombe is missing the point. She should not be complaining about what happened and so on. Finally, there is too much negativity from civil society who want to control everything. Remember, they have introduced, and I'm part of that civil society, but I'm talking about the radical wing of our civil society, not the civil society per se, but the radical wing, the extremists in this country, in civil society. The names are very clear, and I've published about them. This is not something I'm shying about. Their understanding of government is government outside government. So they have given us what we are calling government by commissions. And we need to start thinking about what all these commissions are all about. Instead of deepening and mainstreaming the government, democratizing the government, deepening institutions that are accepted elsewhere as legitimate instruments of governance. We are expanding institutions everywhere. They're they call chapter 15, or whatever they are called. My view is that IEBC should be trimmed down and mainstreamed like other bodies, so that it doesn't cost us what it is costing. We are hemorrhaging.
We are hemorrhaging. You think we are hemorrhaging? One of the recommendations that we have also from Akombe's report is the fact that we should abolish the chairman's, actually the CEO's position, so that we can give now the chairman the executive. She calls it the executive chairman, right? So all the roles that are being duplicated from the secretariat and the chairman, or maybe the center of power that is at the tug of war between the chairman and the CEO is done away with. What will be your assessment?
Debarl, allow me to eulogize with families that have lost members in the floods, but also compliment Kipchoge and Cheruiyot for their great job in London with those medals. In terms of, I think former Commissioner Roselyne Akombe is entitled to our opinion like any other Kenyan. To a large extent, I agree with what Professor Kagwanja is saying. But whatever Akombe says, it would be good to look at it. I think an audit would be vital in the last election, and with not to find flaws, but to keep deepening and strengthening our electoral systems. I think we've come a long way, but we still have a long way also to go. And in terms of institutionalization, I have a feeling that probably there's a personal crunch that Roselyne has with the Chiloba. It's probably not the office of the CEO per se. I think it's very difficult to take away the need to have a distinction between policy body and the management as the secretariat, the implementers, the day-to-day, because you don't really expect the chairperson of the IEBC to be day-to-day running of the commission. Maybe Chiloba was a strong personality, and despite his faults, and all human beings have their own faults, I think as a technocrat he has tried. Unless we get angels from heaven to run our elections, I am trying to see, even if we dissolve the IEBC as it's known to exist today, I'm wondering, how many Kenyans that would be worthy of those positions will be prepared to take up those positions unless we go out head hunting. We may want even to consider also having foreigners, perhaps, maybe the UN, to manage and run our institutions. But I also want to take the position that I think our problems may not be so much institutions as it is trust. The United Kingdom, for a long time, never had a government body, electoral management body. The ERS, SL, the Electoral Reform Society Limited, for more than 100 years has been managing government elections until about 5-6 years ago. So the issue of trust is one that we need to address. How do we Kenyans trust each other? And I think it's in this regard that I compliment the recent handshake, particularly if we can get to the stage where there's genuineness, because that's also still a gray area. But building trust, and of course trusting our institutions, but also strengthening them. I like the part where Akombe mentions technology. I would want to believe that despite problems teething we have seen with technology, perhaps we need to see more technology in our elections than less. But that could be a discussion for another day.
Right. Let's hear from Beatrice. Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, I'll also want to say something concerning one of the MPs who has died, and she's a woman like me. I want to tell the family of the bereaved to take heart, and also those ones who are perishing on floods. In my own county, Vihiga, those ones who are being shot left, right, I want to tell them to take heart. On the issue of Ms. Akombe and the IEBC, I would say she's been inside there, and she must be knowing the things that are inside there. She has something to tell us, and that's why she resigned. Okay, on CEO and the chairman, still the same thing. These guys have been working as a team. They know the road. They understand what has been going on. They should be able to tell us Kenyans what is happening. Because even if we talk, we change, we bring in other new people, there must be something that is happening in IEBC which we are not being told exactly what it is. The chairman cannot perform the duties of the CEO. As much as we are talking of a bloated whatever like that, the chairman has his duties to perform. The CEO has his or has to perform. Therefore, as we strive for minimum reforms and also making sure that electoral injustice in Kenya ends, we need to be told, and especially the current chairman and the CEO, they have to tell us what's happening in IEBC, because Kenyans totally have lost trust in them. The way they carried the last, they just ended the elections. There is some questions marks. The Kenyans are still not trusting them. So Akombe must be having something, which we need as a country. We need her to tell us exactly what's happening in IEBC.
Thank you. Kabando, even before we had this particular report, we had the chairman really coming, I think that was after, coming forward and saying, you know, he cannot really function properly because, he's somewhat tight even within the commission itself. Was that maybe the first time that we should have seen these warning flares and maybe moved in to address what is really going on within IEBC right now?
Thank you very much, and good morning to everyone. Often, we tend to run away from the main problem. And often, we want to have easy escape route from a challenge. This country is facing serious challenges, but also it's presenting, like seen recently last week, when our head of state represented the nation at the Commonwealth, heads of state, important opportunities. So these go in tandem. The electoral process cannot be assumed to have stopped because we have had an election last year, and therefore the questions of post-election audit be sidestepped because we want to focus on the opportunities we have. The bedrock of democracy is the involvement of all stakeholders in governance. And civil society has played perhaps the most important role in Kenya to ensure that reforms have been achieved. When Parliament was completely emasculated, when the business community was completely suffocated, and we only depended on the Law Society of Kenya, the NCCK, the civil society, those early 90s, up to even 1987, it is these independent groups that marshaled the most important vision that has sustained focus on improvement of governance. IEBC has been on the spotlight. Given what happened last year between August 7th, August 8th, when we had the first election, and the repeat election of 26th of October last year, when you remember, some of us even came out, say, you know, we need some, we need dialogue at the top, not at the second layer. It was evident, as it is today, that there are very pertinent issues. You have a commissioner who left last year, mid-October. We have 3 commissioners who purport to have left a week ago, but whom we now see have not tendered their formal resignation to the chairman. This is a Tower of Babel. So we need to focus there, and we need to remedy what problem we have. The question of electoral malpractice is evident when you see a lot of petitions being presented, and some of them successful. And now you see people even going beyond the Court of Appeal to Supreme Court, which in my view should be during the presidential election. It shows that people don't have the real trust on IEBC. They are depending now on the judiciary to really salvage their careers, and the opportunities are being narrowed. So anyway, in short, let's address the question of electoral challenge, the question of corruption, the question of dangerous drugs, and illicit supply of weapons. Now we are celebrating the 5th devolution conference.
Yes, the 5th.
And everybody agrees that if you go to Kakamega or Paranya's backyard, there's something you can see. You know, a 6 billion dedicated to a referral hospital. If you go to Mukurwe-ini, there's something you can see. But equally, people also agree that there are counties in the marginal part of this country, particularly in the north, that maybe could have done better than they did. Even from Central Kenya region, the areas that people say, really, these are showcasing a lot of success in this zone. Why not this one? Yet it is high potential area, classified by the session paper number 10, I think, of 1965 or thereabout. So let us not run away from the challenges that are facing us. And I think the question of national dialogue, this preoccupation with 2022 is short-sighted, is selfish, and the people must stand on a pedestal of honesty and courage and state that which is true and that which is necessary. Today you are saying, let's not talk about the referendum. Tomorrow you're saying, let us not talk about 2022. But your dogs of war, your sycophants, are talking about this particular issue as if it's happening today. Let's give His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta and his partner in dialogue, Right Honorable Raila Odinga, the opportunity to spearhead a surgery of the Kenyan political anatomy, because we'll be deceiving ourselves to say we are comfortable. We are not. And the big effort shall be achieved if we agree and we submit to the reality. And the reality is we need national reconciliation and improvements of governance.
All right. I'm holding court this morning with Kabando, who is the former legislator of Mukurwe-ini in Nyeri County. Also, we do have with us Peter Kagwanja, who is the Executive Director of African Policy Institute. Also, we do have with us Beatrice Adagala, who is a women rep, Vihiga County. And also, we do have Dr. Shem Ochuodho, who's the global leader of Kenya Diaspora Alliance. We promise to circle back with, of course, the way forward for IEBC. Dr. Shem Ochuodho, what will be your inputs right now with the IEBC? You say, and I had you mention, also the UN should be also considered. I think that was part of what also ODM or the NASA coalition was gagging for when they were demonstrating for electoral reforms last year.
Yeah, Debarl, I think in the circumstances, obviously improvement, incremental improvement is always welcome. And this is why I support the talk of an audit. I think the best bet for Kenya, and given that we're not really sure whether these 3 commissioners resigned or not, as Mheshimiwa Kabando is saying, it's a purported resignation. We are yet to see the evidence. I'm hoping that they didn't resign. I think we need to patch up the commission. Of course, if there are issues of culpability in the Secretariat, yes, then of course people need to be tried. They would step aside and be tried. But I'm hoping that it's not just a case of witch hunt. I think strengthening, the best that would happen is to strengthen IEBC, figure out why were they not able to work together. Debarl, we must also appreciate the fact that the commission came into being just a short while to the elections. They didn't really have enough time to gel and find a mechanism to work together. I think one experience we gathered from the Kriegler report was that you don't want to bring in a commission last minute. It's vital to have one settled way ahead. So if we could have IEBC stabilize, I think the onus upon Chairman Chebukati to stabilize the ship. And but of course that does not mean we should not look into areas of improvement. And again, as I said, going forward, I think the aspect of technology, maybe this is a unique opportunity for Kenya to do what China did with Huawei. China in the older years used to import more than 98% of its strategic technology from abroad. And the then president took a very decisive action, said when the Huawei CEO and founder went and said, look, you know, if we invest a little bit in our own research and development, we can have our own technology that secures our nation. Huawei today is probably the world's leading telecom company. And I think with the handshake between President Uhuru and Right Honorable Prime Minister, an element of trust is beginning to merge. It would be very sad if we lose that opportunity. And one quick win that we could get is get a Kenyan-grown technology, because the world technological prowess is ours. You know, the world, Zuckerbergers, the Bill Gates, they come here not because they love Kenya. They know this is the hub, has got great potential. Sure. I'd be very happy to see M-Kura, M-Vote, a product by the Kenyans that not only serves our purposes, but something that we could export and make huge amounts of resources turn back, even pay for. I noticed that we're struggling with balancing our budget because this is a technology we would export. We know, for example, in the UK, voter turnout has been gradually going down over the years, except for Brexit. We do also know in Middle East, women are left out because they barely go out to vote physically. But if there was technology, Kenyan-made, exported. We also know Switzerland. The joke is that they vote literally. They have a referendum for almost everything. Even an electricity pole, if it's to be put in a neighborhood, people must vote, take a referendum, whether they agree or not. You know, in such instances, technology, a Kenyan homegrown technology with a reputation equivalent to M-Pesa would be very vital. But that's just one way to improve. But obviously, Parliament may also need to look at the IEBC Act law. What are the areas we need to improve, to tighten, based on experiences from the past? So personally, rather than a total overhaul, I would prefer incremental enhancement.
Incremental versus total overhaul. You also hold with that opinion of Dr. Shem Ochuodho. What will be your opinion? Beatrice.
Okay, the way things stand, the Kenyan, I've said the Kenyan people are not, they don't have trust in the current IEBC. I think total overhaul should be done because we still have a lot of time to the next general elections. As people are saying, we should not keep on politicking. We just came from an election the other day. It's hardly 8 months or so. So we wait. It's time. There is time now. If it is true they have resigned, let IEBC be reconstituted. Even if Chebukati is retained or not, let it be reconstituted. Necessary reforms be made so that in any other future election, a daughter of a P4 teacher like me can be able to get her right vote if I want to be the president of this country, or if I want to be a governor, or any seat, even an MCA seat. Let there be the necessary electoral reforms so that once we go to the election, like the 2022 election, the way people are politicking, if we continue the way we are to the 2022 election, history repeats itself. And that's what the Kenyan person will not want that. We want that change so that next elections, when somebody is announced as a winner, just a winner, and just live like that. The way Kabando was an MP for Mukurwe-ini, but when somebody else came in, I think he never went to court to contest. You know, going to court again makes Kenyan taxpayers' life very much expensive. We need to cut this matter of petitions. It makes the country go back to zero, economy-wise, time wasting, and even enmity. That's why you'll see a lot of insecurity all over. Somebody will want to say that I have to do 1, 2, 3 to make sure that I silence my opponent, and that leads to insecurity. So we would rather have the necessary electoral reforms and everything that will make sure elections are proper, run like the developed countries. Why should just Kenya after every election there is we have wrangles, we have what? I concur with the Shem, our former minister, with what he's saying. We have to embrace electronic, whatever kind of, we have to embrace that. Because actually, like in the Muslim world, the women may be left, they don't vote. Sure. And those votes are very necessary. They'll be really exercising their democratic right by voting in the right leader whom maybe will present that particular country or people at that particular period of time. So what I would say is this, and I'll still continue talking about electoral reforms.
Right, of course, the question of having that electoral or making sure that we have an electoral system in the country and making it a critical national infrastructure also has been the bane of a good debate also here on AM Live as well. Maybe as we're winding up on the IEBC issue, because I think this is a developing story, we have Chebukati now refusing actually to resign because the issue of compensation, and of course we saw from the dailies last week a tidy sum of amount of money is what also is requesting or is asking for from the government as well. So what does this portend for him and the other remaining 3 commissioners? Very briefly, Peter.
I think what we are really behaving like what Chinua Achebe used to say, that you concentrate on chasing a rat, escaping from your burning heart, because the rat has troubled you so much when you had a heart. You are now chasing the rat instead of putting off the frames. The real issue with IEBC it's not IEBC per se, because institutions will always have their faults here and there. It is our own politics, the way we are playing it. And until we change the political framework, particularly the question of trust. If you read the report of the European Union, they say that all these expenses we are having are all about trying to create trust. The emphasis on technology. Who cares about technology? It is even easier to count the ballot, but there is so much mistrust that so many other ballots, so that we had even to bring to our vote, the ballot itself was created very, very close to a note or a passport, so that it has these lines, this cannot be tampered with. It all boils down to trust. That's one. 2, I think we are concentrating too much on personalities.
Yes.
Now, let me tell you, and this is a fact, Chiroba is the best election expert we have in Africa. He came straight from UNDP. So if talking about bringing the UN, which UN are you bringing? Akombe comes from the UN. Chiroba came from the UN. Straight. immediately Akombe left, he went.
UN as an institution, not personalities were coming.
That's
from
why
UN.
we are saying, if you, from the UN, what you'd be looking for is expertise. It's not the institution to govern you, because we are a sovereign nation. You don't want the UN to come and govern you, do you? Why would we have fought for independence? So anything that says UN, EU, whatever, that is recolonization, in another word. So what we are looking for is expertise. And last year, because of the experience with the Hassan Commission, because remember, this is the same, exactly the same debate we had with Hassan and her team and his team. And Hassan's team nobody was found culpable on anything, but they were all chased out of the office for no reason. Now, before that, we had the Kivuito Commission, which was chased out with no reason. Who has ever been taken to court because of wrongs that they did within IEBC? So that means we need to shift the debate from personalities to the institution. What changes do we need within IEBC? One of the major debates which is coming from here and is coming from Akombe.
But the question will be then, how do we uncouple personalities from the institutions?
You have to.
Essentially, the personalities are making the institutions.
Because if you don't do that, if you concentrate on the institution, then you found the individual who is violating the law. Because what is common to us is the law, is a practice. It's not the individuals. Individuals are capable of being criminals. They are capable of being priests. What makes us be able to judge them is the possibility, the knowledge that this is the law and this is how it has been evaluated. That's why you have kicked commissions after commissions after commissions. This is the third commission we are now calling to kick out without any one of them being taken to court.
But the institution is not just the organizational structure and the ergonomics of the office.
If you read the beautiful ones are not yet born, then you have to begin hunting for angels. Bring us 7, we'll buy them. We pay them the highest. Bring us angels. Tomorrow I'll be the chair of IEBC Commission. Then somebody will start saying, you know, Kagwanja is aligned this way, because we are personalities within a certain political context. Let's move from there. In terms of the CEO chairman, the bad blood between the commission and the secretariat is there. And that is what exemplifies the fact that Kenyans are not concentrating on the right things. It is political, management 101, that you have the policy body and you have the executing body. Why would somebody in his or her right mind call for abolition of a secretariat? Who is going to implement? If in the ministries, you have the minister and you have the PS. One is the executor, the other one is the policy leader. You see, in cooperatives, it is the same. You have the board that said things and you have the management that does execution. IEBC has no problem with CEO versus the chairman. This is a figment in the imaginations of Akombe and others. It is perfect as far as that's concerned. The idea is to tighten the functions to ensure that they adhere to the law, not whether one performed better than the other.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's basically what one is saying. But let me make a point about the handshake.
No, we'll go to the handshake. Let's just finish with the IEBC. I think we'll relate it.
But I should link the two. Linking the two meaning.
We will link it when we come to the handshake.
Fine.
Let's hear from
We'll do that.
I think the bottom line, if you follow what the Madam has said, what Shem and the Professor are saying here, is that we have systemic issues, okay? Institutional issues. But you know the bottom line is impunity.
Yes.
Lack of punishment of mistakes. When we change this commission to the next, it means an admission that something was not right. For instance, we have had some successful petitions of MCAs, the ongoing of members of parliament, of governors.
Yes.
Who has been punished in the IEBC for those omissions? Nobody. So it means that I can preside over an election in South Nyanza as a returning officer, as the clerk. Mistakes are identified and nothing is done. All right? So punishment of mistakes is what we need. And what we should be asking ourselves, what is the priority for Kenya? everybody seems now to agree that we need to kickstart, to support, and to farm the Big Four agenda, universal health care and others. Let's go back to the early 70s. Where were we left on the track? Mm-hmm. Yesterday in London, the male and female gold came to Kenya. Right. We have all seen what rugby has done. This panel here is of great. Shem may just be seen like a former member of parliament. He's an achiever in some areas. Professor Kagwanja came during 2010 World Cup. I came to Pretoria and I visited you, and I remember the kind of recognition and honor you have had in South Africa. The bottom issue is that as a country, we should take stock of where, and ask ourselves, where did the rain start beating us, to the extent that now South Korea is Samsung, right. A country of 5 million people, sure. That is Lee Kuan Yew's Singapore, right. Is its GDP and per capita income is over sure. European giants and even Americans, sure. And Malaysia of Dr. Mahathir Mohamad. Where did they move to leave Kenya when we know globally, if you go, for instance, to a country like Slovenia, even in a remote part of some of the small states in US, and you mentioned Jomo Kenyatta. Mm-hmm. You mentioned Jomo Kenyatta is like you are mentioning Mandela, you are mentioning Nkrumah. What we need to do is to agree that in this country, we have entrenched impunity, that people who steal are celebrated, elected members of parliament, senators and governors, people who are identified in mega corruption are cleansed by their mono-ethnic sympathies, and thereafter readmitted in government. And we who are also making noise in our own home counties, when governors on our tickets, yes. Or members of parliament on our tickets make a mistake, we troop everybody from the village, from every hamlet, from every ridge, to go and cushion them. Mm-hmm. So IEBC is just a small dot in the big page of issues that we need to rectify. But I also disagree with the point that we should stop politics completely. The politics we are talking about is politics of electioneering, talking about 2022. That is misplaced and is selfish, as we said, and is short-sighted. But Parliament is a house of politics. And the Parliament must continue auditing and interrogating national commissions, national executive, to ensure that they are streamlined. Then the debate about the referendum, my take is, it will happen. Because we all agreed in 2010 that there are some areas that we need to change. For instance now, you have the National Commission on Human Rights. You have the Independent Police Oversight Authority, IPOA. You have the National Commission on Integration. Yes. You have the National Commission on Gender and Equality. You have a lot of duplicity. And then you have Parliament that has departmental committees and watchdog committees that are auditing the national executive. There are areas that we need to work on. Right. We need to make corruption in this country very expensive. China, which is a dominant player in the African business now, yes. Has zero tolerance on corruption. If you go to Singapore, you cannot even spit in the streets. You'll be instantly punished, and too expensive to even commit that small mistake of spitting in the street. Yes. So let's move to hands supporting the initiative of the handshake between His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta and Right Honorable Raila Odinga. Let's have a prescription that will once and for all say it is not about Agenda 4, which we seem to be sidestepping. It's about resolving the truth and justice and the constitution agenda in Kenya and making it expensive for people to misbehave.
All right. And of course, yes, let's hear from Dr. Shem Ochuodho as we're winding up with the IEBC.
Before we leave electoral reforms, I wanted just to premise that maybe IEBC is just one part. We belong to a group with Mheshimiwa Kabando here to Shauriane. We've been trying to look at what do we need to do in terms of electoral reforms. IEBC, the institutional structure is just the fifth item. The aspect that we left out 30% of eligible Kenyans who either didn't have IDs or were outside the country is a major issue. You know, even if there was to be rigging, you cannot steal 30% of the eligible votes. The issue of party primaries, are they fair? The issue, do we have true multipartyism? You know, our patriots from some parts of the country pushed so hard to bring us multi-party democracy, but they forgot to take it to their own backyards. The issue of money, finance in politics, you know, why is it that you have to be a billionaire to run for presidency or a multi-millionaire to run for certain positions? Those are issues we need to address. The issue that Mheshimiwa Kabando is talking about of impunity, are we all playing by the rules, the rule of law? Are we observing them? So the institutional infrastructure, we need just to recognize that that's just one part of the many issues we need to look at to improve our electoral systems.
Right. Of course.